I'll record.
All right. And then, as we so often do, we got the idea capture tool. You can click on the link in the presentation if you want it. That's right there in the present. Maybe we'll paste in the link to the presentation one more time. And this is day 2. Day 1 is here, and we just like to have that record. And so then again, everyone's name, or yeah, I think almost everyone's name's here. So if you just click on your name, that'll pop you down. And we have just a couple questions here. So what strategy did you try? How'd it go? And what's a situation where you think you might use it again if you feel like you can, if it just went well? And if not, hopefully after troubleshooting with some colleagues, you might find out how to tweak it to get that to work. So we want to give everyone a couple minutes. What strategy did you try? How'd it go? And we are going to talk about this. So we're hoping just to give some private think time, and then we'll have some discussion time coming up here. But to give everyone, we'll probably need to put the presentation in one more time because we have some people just joining. Perfect. So just a couple minutes to be in the idea capture tool. Click on your name, or if somehow you didn't find it, you can just grab these teachers 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we'll be getting ready to go into 3 rounds of breakout room.
While people are completing that, Pam had a question of what did I miss for signing in? You don't need to do anything, Pam, if you're already registered for this webinar through the Wild Apricot link. We just asked that if you didn't register in the Wild Apricot link, that if you got the link from a colleague, that you would register yourself for the webinar, so we would have your information for paying you if you're an Oregon resident. That's the only real reason.
About 30 seconds and we'll continue on. All right, so this is our second session, but just it's always good to review the goals. So really, very closely to a PLC, which we'll talk about towards the end of the webinar, is just a chance to reflect on the challenge that you've already tried, learn some new talk moves, practice. We want to practice a couple times and live the experience. So many talk moves they're nothing special. They're obvious, in fact, but that's the kind of the art and craft of it is, just having those protocols that just address the various challenges we have with student talk. And then, of course, we want to give you a little bit of time to plan some new moves and discuss next steps. So that's the goals for today. And so we're going to bounce right back to your, what did you try? So we have a breakout room. It's really small. So just to give you a chance to really emphasize, give you a chance to, pair and share. There is a couple, we were going to paste this into the chat. There is a, and these, you don't need these, but we want to ask you, just like we want to ask students, especially at the beginning, try this. And as you try it and it it works and sometimes it feels awkward, that's just going to better position you to guide students through that. So there is the list, it's in the chat now, of the sentence starters. And, just the more you use those, the more you're going to be in a spot to guide students to try it. And it feels a little artificial, like what I'm saying right now. I'm just trying to say some things that I might even say to students too. It feels a little artificial, but try these and then give me feedback on, which ones are working for you and which ones are just too, they just don't seem to fit. Okay, with that, I'm going to get the breakout rooms ready, but take a look.
Yeah, when Bradford's doing the breakout rooms, we know that some of you may be joining. This is a 2-part webinar, and today we're in part 2. And if you were not able to attend part 1, or you were not able to practice one of the discourse strategies for whatever reason, we know that you have very busy lives. Share another time when you have done a discourse strategy or have attempted to do a discourse strategy with your partner if you were unable to try a new one this week.
Excellent. There's a couple people that will not be joining a room, so I just want to make sure everyone has a partner.
And I put the questions in there that we're asking from the PowerPoint. What strategy did you try? How did you go? And then, of course, the talk move ideas are the repeating, revoicing, and say more.
Excellent. Okay, so everyone has a partner. I'm about to open them up, but sometimes people have a little trouble, just various Zoom connection things. So if you don't have someone in your room, in about 20 seconds, we'll start moving you out of there. But want to try this, just pairing up in a room. So we will do another, we'll come back, and I didn't set the timer to be within the breakout room. And I was just checking. I don't know what.
I think we're just this first time 5 minutes. It's because there's just the 2 people to share with each other.
All right, I'm gonna get that timer on there. All right, there we go. So yep, you can use every second and then I'll pull you back after 4 minutes. All right, rooms are open. And then Kristen, you might get an invite, but you're not, there's no one else in your room. I didn't know how to like not invite you to a room.
It's usually the assumption when the room number is that large. I'm like, yeah, I know.
We have Emily Parent is on her own, so we may need to move her. Amanda on her
We have
phone.
a couple people here still, so I don't know if people are having trouble.
Sometimes it doesn't work as well on the phone as otherwise.
And I know sometimes with Zoom, if it's not updated.
Yeah.
If anyone's here and able to put in the chat.
Looks like we might have only one person in room 9.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna move them.
Looks like now we have to move Pam.
In what room?
She's a 9, so we moved 9, and so she's joined. So I'm gonna. Should I just move her to 10?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, thank you, Robin.
Looks like we have at least 2 in every one and 3 in some.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to move Shanna just in case she does join us to room 2.
And I guess we didn't say, I know we didn't put the times here. So are each of these breakout rooms 5 minutes, or I think
the next one with 3 people should be longer.
Yeah.
Do we want that to be like 8 or 9 minutes?
Yeah, maybe 8 minutes, because then we have the room with 6.
Yeah.
This is going to be the longer one. All in all, that's 25 minutes.
So that would be 13. So do we want 10 minutes in the group of 6 or 12 minutes?
Yeah. I think 10 or
10.
yeah.
Okay, we'll do 10.
Is it possible to add me as a co-host? I think that lets me see the breakout rooms, which would let me take attendance while folks are in breakout
Oh,
rooms.
yeah, nice. Yeah, let's see.
I'm not the fastest at this process.
Yeah.
Gosh, I do not.
That'll also stop you from getting the invite.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to try this. I don't think it worked. Well, I'll try it. Hold B to broadcast your voice. Just want to give everyone a heads up. So we're about 10 seconds out, but then you'll have 30 seconds to rejoin the whole group.
That's cool. I didn't know about that broadcast feature. That's neat. I'm learning from you, Bradford.
Yeah, we'll see if it works.
Okay, we have Robin's having connectivity issues. I know how that goes. Even in my own house, I have problems like that.
Welcome back. People are joining us. There'll be about 10 more seconds.
So as people are joining back, I see a comment that they love the breakout room discussion. We really wanted, a key thing today is modeling this idea of professional sharing and PLC, which we are going to have a student discourse PLC through the winter to spring. And we wanted to model what it's like to talk in a low stakes place where you're sharing one idea from one person to another person. So a 2-person pair. So now we're going to expand to 3 people, hopefully different people than who you had before. And you'll get a chance to get better at sharing your ideas and get better at practicing discourse, because it's going to be the same topic that we want you to share about your strategy. How did it go? And then trying to use those same talk moves, but with a different group of people, because you've kind of practiced on your first group and now maybe getting a little bit better at doing that with your second group, but still low stakes, still just 3 people.
Yep. And there is a chance there'll be 4, but most rooms have just 3. And we're going to go right back into it. So you still have those, still just suggesting, try out the sentence stems and sentence starters and, weigh in and have that discussion. Okay. I think they're all ready. And I think we're in good shape. Everyone should have.
And this breakout's about 8 minutes, right, Bradford?
Shoot. Yes, but I didn't change the clock. It's
Well, we'll see what we can do about that. And if not, it'll be 5 minutes.
We don't have to close it. So at the end of it'll be awkward, but yeah. Shoot. I have 1, 2, 3.
We got a lot of things going on.
Yeah,
here.
there's like 5 different bars. The sharing screen bar over covered up.
3 monitors.
Yes. Did you ever read the book The Circle?
No,
Dave Eggers. It's about like Facebook. He actually just wrote a follow-up. But anyways, though, I'll keep it short and just say the main character works at like a mythical Facebook, and they keep getting screens that they have to do. So they, that's what I feel like a little bit right now.
Yeah. So in the group of 6, we're going to add in the student, like the ideas that came up in the idea capture tool as a discussion point. Are we doing that then?
Say that one more time.
We're going to add in the ideas from last week's idea capture tool
Yes.
of like barriers and how people either experience them, overcoming them, or seeing a difference in using a protocol versus not using a protocol.
Yep.
So I'll get those ready to cut and paste and put in there.
Yep.
And then we're going to use different sentence frames.
Yep. And maybe put the sentence frames in first.
Okay.
Then it'll be close to the original sentence frames.
Yeah, these are add-ons, say more. Press for reasoning.
Okay, I sent the message. I'm gonna speak the message one time.
Okay.
Just to be sure, there's 4 additional minutes beyond what the clock says there is. So know that you have 4 additional minutes after the clock reads 0. Good. I don't know. I had a little thing that said it went out, but I'm not sure that's true.
We'll see.
A quick wonder, with breakout rooms and recording, do we want to pause recording during breakout rooms?
I don't think it records during breakout rooms, does it?
I think it
doesn't record
records
in the
you,
room.
Oh,
records
okay.
us.
Okay,
think.
that's a
Yep.
good idea. Sorry about that. We'll have to edit this one.
Yep. The only danger then is that you know, sometimes you forget to, it's a lot.
Turn it
to
back on.
Turn it back on. But
Yep.
yeah, that makes sense.
I'll try to see if I can use the video edit tool.
Yeah, to clip it out. Yeah.
Clip it. Because we're going to actually have a lot of breakout rooms. So maybe the next time we go into breakout rooms, I'll see if I can stop recording and start it.
I think there's a pause recording. Maybe that's the option.
I do see pause recording, yes.
There's also pause share. I'm gonna just quick. I hit pause share. So what did your screen?
I still see the PowerPoint.
Mine
Yeah.
looks the same.
Yeah, that's interesting. That didn't seem to do much. One other thing, if we're really on top of it, after we go into breakout rooms, well, people for the recording audience, we might do like a 30-second summary of what kind of the goal and what the, you know, how, what they might try to recreate by while watching the recording. Oh.
If I'm ever in the room with some of these folks, I'm going to be like, Nancy, like I saw your name on 7 attendance lists or others, like it's just funny that you start to recognize names after a while.
Mhm.
People I've likely never met in person.
I was,
Perfect. All right, welcome back. I think we have everyone back. Okay, excellent. All right, so we do have one more round, but we are going to add something this time. So this one gets a little bit more open. There's 6 people in the room, and the idea is just really that PLC in that PLC model. So you're going to have several colleagues and a chance to share. But the other piece that we want people to sort of situate, if you did want to share, if you wanted to get some feedback on a strategy you've already tried, that's excellent. But the other piece that we wanted to add was the big takeaways from last week's idea capture tool. And there were several themes. So a chance to just openly discuss, students are fearful of saying the wrong thing, right? That looking stupid, or just, there's, just humans in general, you don't want to say feeling dumb. And so fearful of saying the wrong thing. So that's you're trying, again, here's some sentence starters to use in your discussion with that. And you can pick these in any order. Hard to start the conversation. And of course, sentence starters do help with that, but that's sometimes that's not the only thing. And yep. So just give you a chance to discuss, is that happening in your class? What sort of success are you seeing? Or is it associated with a particular kind of task? And then several people mentioned that, it's always been a little bit hard to start the conversation, but it does seem this post-COVID setback is what was mentioned multiple times. So just students might be coming off of not having talked a lot. So it's even just that additional challenge. All right. And then you can basically read this. So I think I will, I'll read number 3 because maybe the way I wrote it wasn't that clear. Focus and attendance makes flow difficult. And so, and that exacerbates 1 and 2. So if you've been absent, you might be in a situation where you don't feel comfortable about what's going on. So we can imagine a student would be even then more fearful of saying the wrong thing. And yep, 4 and 5. So we're about to put you back in the room, and to be clear, hoping that you'll try these sentence starters a couple times just to let them roll off your tongue and just notice how it feels and what discussion happens after it. And then just so you're ready, we're hoping afterwards, this one is 10 minutes long. So just really trying to give you a chance to sink
learn
in
from each other.
Yes. And so, but we will do a waterfall chat of an aha moment or a highlight once we're back in the whole group. And Susan, I'll let you.
Yeah, I put the
And I'll get the breakout room.
sentence frames in the chat, and also those ideas that you talked about from last week's idea capture tool. And this idea of, did using a protocol change some of your thinking about what the barriers were to student talk? Were you able, by trying like AB partner talk or one of the other things that we shared with you last time, to maybe overcome some of these things that were surfacing in last week's idea capture tool? That did you make time for those talk protocols? Did you have a positive result? So just trying to think about problem solving, and as a teacher, being able to share your ideas with others who are also in the same situation, how can we help each other professionally and learn from each other to help us move forward so that we are more comfortable with using the protocols and we can help our students being more comfortable.
Excellent. So rooms have 5 to 6 people. And they are open. See you back in 10 minutes.
Welcome back, everybody.
All right, everyone's back. And then Susan, do you want to do this slide?
Sure. So we have modeled for you using sentence frames and talk protocols in a low risk to higher risk modeling of working with 2 and then 3 and then 6. And in that group of 6, we asked you to reflect on finding solutions to barriers that were identified in the idea capture tool, or to talk about how you might have made a shift yourself. So Bradford, I'm hoping you can talk about the waterfall, because I think that's something that you're more expert at.
So hopefully you have one. Yeah, just an aha, right? We hear it all the time that there was great conversation in the groups, and we'll even give a chance to raise your hand and verbally say it. But the waterfall is that it's the one that just fits easier, but sometimes we still want to hear that voice too. That's a great thing. But the waterfall is really not, don't hit enter yet. So if you're willing to write, we're going to give you like 90 seconds. Could you write and capture an aha or a highlight on addressing one of those ideas from last week's idea capture tool, or it could be in the earlier discussions you had about something you tried, but just sharing the aha moment. And then we're about 60 seconds out. And then at the end of that 60 seconds, I'll say, hit the return. And if you're willing to play along, then we'll obviously the chat will light up and we'll take a minute to kind of read through and then see about if someone wants to share verbally. But about 30 seconds left to type just kind of a 1 sentence or longer if that's what you need.
It could be something that you learned from a colleague that you want to try in your own classroom, something that that you heard another teacher had aha that you want to share because it sounded like a great idea to you.
No worries. Okay, so we're kind of there. So if you're ready, you can hit return, or you can just finish up and hit return because there'll be a bunch there to read through. And then we'll just take a minute or two to read. And if you had one that just wasn't captured with typing, if you're willing to raise your hand, we're just hoping for a couple of those. And yeah, we're probably all reading the chat. So
yeah, I love this idea that just keep practicing and don't give up. It takes time.
yeah.
That idea of think time, write time, talk time, we tried to model that today, of having you write in the idea capture tool, thinking first, writing, and then talking in the kind of strategically small to larger groups.
Yeah. Yeah, simple affirmations, right? That's both, we've probably been on both sides of those in ourselves, right? Sometimes it can feel hollow to say something like, great point, but also right after you're done talking, and especially it might be even higher. It's been a while since I've been in high school, but I can imagine a student, you know, like they're just like, oh my gosh, I said something. What do people think? And just hearing that affirmation.
I love it. That affirming all responses and not shutting down incorrect responses. That can just really be detrimental to a child. And I can attest that for me, that was very detrimental when I was in school. It shut me down almost completely from talking. Yep. No right or wrong answers. I love it. Gets easier. It does.
Yeah.
Anyone have their hand raised and wants to share something? I'm curious about what the writing baton is. Well, shall we move on, or should we give it some more wait time? We're going to keep you very busy. You're gonna the breakout room is going to be your friend tonight, because we really feel that the way to get better at this is to practice with your colleagues, so you aren't practicing so much with your students. So Bradford's going to share one of the most important talk protocols in the patterns curriculum, and that is the data discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so this one is going to really require some playing along. That just try to pick a lab that was a little bit unfamiliar, but also yeah, so really it's just that sending a wave down a slinky. And so let me introduce this, and then I'll talk about the structure. We got to open like a slide deck, so there's several steps. So I'm going to take this one step at a time here. So just to immerse ourselves in the phenomena. So this is waving a slinky and just asking the question that if you wave a slinky back and forth quicker, frequency, if you move it more frequently back and forth, up and down, and of course, if you are a physics teacher, you're probably familiar with, you're definitely familiar with this, but if you're not a physics teacher, you might not be. You can wave a slinky, or we have a screenshot of a FET. That's a little bit nicer for collecting very precise data. Slinkies are notoriously kind of noisy and hard to collect data with. But any question, we're just asking, how does the frequency affect the wavelength? And the wavelength, the distance between crest to crest. All right, so that is the research question. And then there is a second one. There's two in this lab. And how does frequency affect, oh my God, yeah, wavelength. That's what I've been saying. That's actually question 2, sorry. And then question 1 is, how does frequency affect the wave velocity? I'm going to replay that video. So you can see as the person shakes it, you can see that crest move down, and you can, whoa, that's hard to see actually in that video, but you can see it. A crest moves across, left to right. All right, that's not so important, because what we really want people, and I know people are having some disconnection issues, so we're getting people rejoining. All right, so now here is the directions for us in the webinar. All right, you're about to go back into breakout rooms, and if you're in breakout room 2, you will be in group 2. So whatever your room number is your group number. Then within your group, half should pretend to have taken data on the low tension. And so once you get in a group, you got to decide, let's say you're in groups of, 4, 2 of you will take the low tension, and then the other 2 will take the high tension, right? We're about to have you use student prompts, and it will refer to the different data collections. So in this context, the 2 data collections were people that had a low tension, that's a real loose slinky, and then the group that had a high tension slinky. Think if you stretch out a slinky and then send waves down it. All right, there's a lot going on here, so we're going to copy and paste this into the chat. right? But we're trying to simulate something that like in class takes an hour and a half to get to, but we want to jump you right to the data discussion part. One group member, if you're willing to take on the discussion facilitator role, you'll open the data cards. And we're going to have you share your screen, which makes me reminder we had that check. I just want to check that screen sharing is on, which I need to stop my screen share to do that. So I'm going to do that before the breakout rooms. All right, so here are some cards. Cards for leading data discussion. Just one person needs these open and you could be sharing your screen. So you're going to do quality control. Now we're providing the data, so step one is not so important. But then 2, orienting to the data. Have a student from each group. That would be the low tension group and the high tension group share their experimental setup. Now that's kind of weird because you didn't do the experiment, but I'll just jump back to our slide. Oh, sorry. That would be a group that in the FET, they had their tension set to low for the low tension group and high for the high tension group. All right, so the idea is to really go through each one of these and then sort of identify, oh, is that too repetitive or just, we're not trying to have you critique the cards, although we always welcome that. But the idea is to try to immerse yourself, try to make it work, and then we'll definitely want feedback on the cards themselves. So finding similarities and differences. Again, try to make it work. And the facilitator is showing that. Okay, so now I just want to go back to the directions. All right, everyone else can have the data discussion open. So if you click on that, I already have that open. Of course, this is the directions again on slide 1. And of course, if you're in group 2 or breakout room 2, you would go down to group 2. And after these are cards, so you can move them around. And you're going to pair them up, each real life or, simulation experience. So you can just see this is the high tension group. Here's the low tension group. And then there's something that no one has done, medium tension. But again, you're going to try to connect them with the 3 graphs that are here and the 3 mathematical models. What math equations are acting like the data you see in the graphs and the single data point that's shown in the screenshot. So you'll move these around and you can either, there's no right or wrong way, but somehow you want to kind of connect a graph with a real life screenshot image and a mathematical model. And there's a couple different ways. Sometimes people do it vertically, horizontally, or clump them in the corners. That's a great thing to talk about. But as you move them around, we're hoping that you'll explain why you're clumping them the way you are. And again, the facilitator is then they're sharing their screen, ask students to find similarities. What's similar about the graphs in all of them? What's similar about the mathematical models about all of them? What's similar about the real life experience? Oh, they all have a wave that moves down. You can't see that. So that's where you got to kind of play along. Remember the slinky. If you've ever shaken a slinky, you'll invoke that. So this one we are giving you, I'm forgetting the exact number of minutes, but it's high. It's like 15 or 20 minutes. And so know that a lot of these you should only spend 10 to 20 seconds on, or 30 seconds at the most, and then move on. So that the best stuff is at the end when you bring it all together. All right. I am going to pause there and hand it over to Susan. I'm going to get the breakout rooms all set up, but it might, yep. Yeah.
So I've put the links, and so while the links are open here in the chat, it'd be great if you are on a computer that if you could click on those links to get those open. So you have both the data discussion prompts and the data discussion cards, so that you can move them around. And the only thing is you want to kind of remember what group you're in. So when that number comes up on the screen, write it down or remember it so that you know which PowerPoint slide you are going to be manipulating in your small group. And you have enabled the screen sharing, so each group can do that.
Yep. And then what was the minutes? I gotta,
Minutes, we had 25 minutes total, but we probably, I would say we should shorten that because we're getting we're a little behind. So
Yep.
I would say maybe even 15
minutes.
minutes.
Sounds great. Okay. Breakout rooms are ready. And I can just see someone got disconnected. So there's a chance you might get, I'm going to try to move you right now so that doesn't happen. You probably don't want to deal with that. Okay. I don't know what's, okay, good. Something is, oh, okay. I think it's all set. Okay. Breakout rooms, I believe, are ready.
Mm.
All right, welcome back. Excellent. Here's our kind of synthesis poster here. And just because we do want to kind of pack this as full as possible to make it worth your while. Want to just, again, try that waterfall. So not a new one, but just respond as a learner or a teacher. What impacted you during that data discussion? What, trying to live that student hat or the discussion you had. If you're willing to try that again, just what impacted you from living the experience in the learner hat or as a teacher. Nice. Shift. Yep. Scott was sharing that shift plus enter. And maybe in 30 seconds, we'll have people hit it. No worries. Otherwise, though. Okay, if you are willing to share, if you hit return, we'll kind of read over them and but we're
Yeah,
gonna
we are all struggling with the same things.
yeah.
I think the data discussion for me was always the most challenging as a new teacher because we were dealing with these, these mathematical patterns. And I know as a teacher, I really had to get on board with what they meant and understand it myself. So I really appreciate everyone being brave today and trying this out.
Nice.
Yeah, that idea of being able to move the graphics around on the slides. I think, Bradford, you're working on doing more of that for the patterns curriculum, so we can have more of those in biology and chemistry as well.
Yep. And then even the third thing that we've heard that is really powerful is to combine this with, this says what to talk about, but really to have sentence starters. So something the Physics Council have tailored sentence starters for that lab. That's the beautiful thing of us having, doing something close enough that we can make specified ones for this lab, right? So those are kind of a next step item. All right, and I kind of got sucked into reading all of them. So we'll take about 30 more seconds just because we do, we tried to shorten this to make it a little bit easier to fit into the evening. But we do want to share just a couple more strategies before we wrap up for the evening. Nice. Okay, so hand it over to Susan to introduce these next. So we just took two big pieces. Now we're going to have a little small bite. So the next three things are small bites. So Susan, if you want to take over.
So we know we've made you work hard tonight, and we're going to maybe just spend some time as we wrap up the final parts of this webinar to just share some other protocols with you so you have more tools in your tool belt, but we won't be having you practicing or sharing them. Now, if you do join our PLC, we will provide opportunities to share and practice more of these protocols, but tonight we will not be doing any more breakout rooms. So as we wrap up. So the next one is continuing the conversation. And this is another data protocol. Bradford, if you can go to the next slide. And put the link in the chat for me, please. So this is another way that if you have data that you may be getting, students may be getting from an experiment, and maybe it's in a data table as opposed to a graph. You might have different kinds of graphs that you're comparing with each other. So maybe not necessarily in a patterns, but this is a great way to have kids just have sentence frames to talk about data in a different kind of a way than the data discussion that we just did. So we have that there for you.
Nice.
Next
All right.
slide.
Yep. Here's another little small bite, and it's going to be short and sweet. Sentence frames and openers. So here's one, just with almost like rapid fire. We won't even do it in the chat, or just see how many. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Using those keywords or concepts below, see how many sentences you can complete in just 20 seconds that are true.
And if you want to whip them in the chat, that's okay. If not, just do them in your mind.
And just to give an example, as slope increases, force increases. That would be an example. Force needed to pull it up. Okay, so the idea here is just, this is so small. It's just really easy. So we just wanted to, data discussions are big, take, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. And this is just tiny. And you can just see that, this is a 30-second to 3-minute. And, it can be formative. It could be a conversation starter. It could get everyone talking and sharing. You could just make it, how many can your group get, and all that good stuff. So just wanted to also show sometimes a small piece is really nice. Oh yeah, go ahead.
And it's a good way to practice academic vocabulary with students, and like Bradford was saying, in a rapid fire, very structured way. And you can do this with any concept. And I think Bradford's going to talk about that.
Yeah, no, I think we were going to give you, if we had a few more minutes, we would give you a time to just make one of these and just try it, like something you could almost try in the next couple days, because there's just somewhere to try it out. So short, sweet, fun. You can imagine it, something we might give PLC time for, again, but just like 5 minutes, but short and sweet. With just 9 minutes left though, I think we're going to move on. And I'll hand it back to Susan for the discussion diamond.
Right. So discussion diamond is a really awesome way for students to have individual accountability for their ideas and explanations, and then come to a group consensus for those. And so the model for this, for the diamond discussion, is each student in a group of 4 would be given a corner. And they would write or draw their own model in that corner. This could be on a piece of paper, or it could be on a whiteboard. And then for that phenomenon that you're giving them, students would then share what they have drawn. And of course, kids can see it. This is super helpful if you have a student who is a special education student or English language learner who can actually physically look at somebody else's model in the corner and borrow some of those ideas for their own model. Now, the idea is once you kind of explain your ideas in that, your individual ideas, the only way to get anything in the middle is if everybody agrees to that idea, and that consensus view then goes into the center. So we have included the Diamond protocol link in the chat, and then we're going to go to the Jamboard. Bradford, if you could project that, because even though we don't have time to do that tonight. Okay, so here's the phenomenon. It's we have blue dye in an ice cube in one part of this tank, and red dye that has hot water underneath the tank in another part of it. So the phenomenon that students would be observing is going to be this, what you're seeing here. So you can see the blue dye going across the bottom, the red dye going across the top. It's moving within the tank. And you can stop that there, Bradford, I think, and then go to the Jamboard. And so when we had teachers doing this in groups of 4, you can see that you have in each of the corners, you have the individual idea of what's happening. And let's move forward to a Jamboard that actually has something in the middle. So here we had 3 people in the group. They each had their model. You can do your modeling in writing or drawing. And I really encourage that students are drawing as much as they are writing their ideas, especially when you're talking about the particle motion of hot or cold particles. We kind of want to have them drawing that as well as writing it. And then in the middle are the ideas that everybody in this group could agree to. That's the consensus model, the middle of the diamond. And if you can just show a couple more, we'll go on. This is a super powerful way to get kids and teachers to share their ideas and come to consensus. And all of that, of course, involves students talking to each other. Of course, when they do their own model, that is kind of that private think time, while they're drawing it, and then they're sharing, and then they're coming to consensus in a group role. So if you have any kind of interesting phenomenons like that, give Diamond discussion a try.
Excellent. And so we're really going to wrap it up here. And one last resource for you to look, but the thing that stands out, and we got one more thing to talk about, so we are rushing this one, is this. You can just see the question, what is the purpose of the talk activity? Well, sometimes we get students to explore something, or in this particular one, it's actually to critique and give feedback on science models, versus to get students to revise their thinking, versus to reach a consensus, versus to explain their thinking. And so you can just see that depending on what you're going for, no surprise, you already knew this before you came, but what you're trying to do might dictate what strategy you use. And this one does have this is a nice one pager in itself. This one especially, where are you in the unit when you want students to explain their thinking, right? It's very different at the beginning when it's exploratory, think driving question board, versus the end when they're really synthesizing and using the big idea of science to explain phenomena and solve problems. We're going to want a different protocol. The other reason why we wanted to end on this one is that in the PLC, our hope is to make a gigantic one of these, where as people think and contribute and the discussion shows that we fill that out. So it's kind of a go-to, right? That you can, it'd be digital, and, you know, just with student talk, the same strategy might work in second period and then bomb in fourth period. And that's going to happen sometimes. So we just, you know, that you want to stay with things long enough that students can really get competent, but sometimes you got to mix it up to keep it fresh. So we're thinking this is a very tangible thing to leave the PLC with, is our larger one, especially if we're using similar curriculum. There are some go-tos that come up again and again, like driving question board, data discussions, but there's also some poignant ones that fill in the gaps at other places that it'd just be nice to have on a one-pager like this. So I'll toss it back to Susan to just wrap it up and mention, I know there's a link for the PLC, so I'll hand it back to Susan to wrap it up.
Okie doke. So one of the things we've shared these tools with you, and if you are interested in registering for the Student Discourse PLC, I'm putting the Wild Apricot link there for you. It's I think we had the dates on here in the next slide, Bradford.
Yep.
So the dates will be January 11th, 25th, Feb 15th, March 15th, and April 19th. So we will meet periodically, a little bit more at the beginning, and then kind of checking in once a month as we practice and learn from each other. And so if you would like to do that and join that, and just know it'll be like tonight, it'll be practicing, it'll be thinking, it'll be sharing and learning from each other. And we want to go to the next slide. And it looks like we already have somebody registered. Yay, Shirley. So we the talk protocols that we've shared over the last 2 days, we've put in this document here. So one-stop shopping, so you don't have to come back to the PowerPoint. So that is linked there. And so we've done quite a lot. We've practiced about half of these, and we just really thank you for being here. Next slide. So recommended actions that you can take, just establishing those classroom norms, just routinely focusing on student talk. It's not a one-time deal. It's something that you should be doing as much as you're able to, and helping students make sense of their ideas, using those talk moves and protocols to help you make it easier, and being aware of the differences in cultural perspectives and how much students are comfortable with talk, and being cognizant of that, starting with that low risk situation, moving up to a high risk, so that sharing from one student to the whole class is not the first time a student has talked about their ideas, using talk as a formative assessment. And then if you're interested, joining the Student Discourse PLC. And I'm sorry the exit ticket isn't working. We're having problems with that being in a shared drive, and the permissions not working. I had that, so I'm sorry about the exit ticket not working. I see that in the chat. And then we do have these additional resources that is also in the that's also in the list of protocols that I shared with you at the end, so you would have those.
And we are really at time. So if you're